My name is Dr. Chris Katarna. I'm an academic, a philosopher, a political scientist at the University of Oxford. I'm also author of a best-selling book called Age of Discovery. And basically what I try to do is look for the big problems, and especially the problems where the majority is starting to think about or reacting in the same way. So I like to find those majorities and then challenge them, that maybe we need to be coming at these things completely differently. So I like to break up the groupthink that I see in society. And that's what my talk today here at TED at BCG was basically about. One of the big challenges that we face in the world today is social media and how we respond to it. And there is so much fear and anxiety about the lies and the hatred that spread on social media. And what we want to do, it seems, is all jump in and regulate it. And I offered a pretty controversial view that I think just the opposite, that we need to let social media run wild because it's doing something really useful, which is helping us to see that a lot of our truths are really weak. They seem weaker than the lies. And we need to understand what is going wrong with our truths. And I really think that over a century of mass media, we learned to be satisfied with really simple truths. We learned to be satisfied when the complexities were dropped and very clean messages to sell us on what people wanted to have happen were what we consumed. And now we're all doing that to one another on social media, and somehow we need to see that that's the problem. And we need to start asking each other and asking ourselves for much more complex truths. So that was kind of my general critique of, I think, a big thing that we need to think about as a society. But I also use this same way of trying to turn things around on a lot of other big issues in the world today. The future of work is one example. So a lot of people look very micro up. We look at what's happening in companies, the pace of automation, of robots stealing jobs, and people fear that maybe AI and robots are going to, take everybody's jobs away. And I come at it completely differently. I look at it kind of top down. And my top down story of the future of work is there are 5 billion people in the world of working age today. Only about 3 billion have a job. Only about 1.3 billion have a job that allows them to cover their cost of living. And there's only about 200 million people in the world who actually love the work that they do. The world economy is about $100 trillion, but really, when you think about it, we're just operating at a fraction of our human capital potential. So I look at AI and blockchain and all these technologies, and I ask myself, if we could turn that 200 million people into 400 million people, or 800 million, or 1 billion, how much would that grow the size of the world economy? So I've got a pretty optimistic view of the future of work as a way, as all these technologies that could help connect more people with the work that they find meaningful to them. And maybe the last thing I'll just briefly talk about is this challenge of how do we think long-term in such a distracted world, in such a short-termist world. And I think that a big part of the solution is reframing how we think about the time we live in. We all talk about this as a knowledge age, but I actually think that this is a learning age. And the difference is really important, because if it's a knowledge age, then we're constantly trying to race to catch up with the information that we haven't yet read or consumed or mastered. But if it's a learning age, then that's not so important as finding out what are the ways that I'm thinking about the world that maybe need to change. Who are the people that I need to be talking to who can challenge my way of seeing things? How do we as a company or as a team of people become highly effective learners? What are the questions we can ask ourselves? What are the conversations we can have? How can we use the problems in front of us as learning opportunities? I think that when we make that big shift and see that right now learning is the only enduring source of competitive advantage, we become a lot less distracted and a lot more involved in the time that we live in. So those are just a few of my thoughts to spark some reactions, and I hope you enjoy them.